let's move to our special briefing item, the annex for Tech 47, Wi-Fi hotspots and extended data plan. Dr. Swift.
Thank you. Dr. Kellstrom is joining us. And trustees, I really appreciate your support with the special briefing on this item. Even in neighborhoods where folks have their connectivity set up, there are areas of our city where Wi-Fi is really a problem. So Dr. Kellstrom has put together a plan where we'll be supporting families, both families in these, if you forgive the term, internet deserts, and also families who may have socioeconomic barriers. And again, our equity plan reminds us that we are about the work of removing barriers. So these Khajiit, is that the right pronunciation? Khajiit data plans really are about removing barriers to learning. So Dr. Kellstrom, if you'll do that, and then also that question that every parent is asking themselves, if I have 3 students and they're all doing interactive learning at the same time, am I going to have enough data? How are we going to go about that?
Good evening, board. First, I will address the Khajiit hotspots. We use them in the spring when we first started off with COVID as a quick response and support to families that had internet connectivity issues. The devices worked quite well. And before you tonight is the, basically we bought a plan to cover both spring and summer school. So we used them all the time. They were turned off the last couple of weeks and they're ready to be turned back on for fall learning. We are only asking for half of them to be turned on because we're going to try a multi-pronged approach with some Comcast Essentials broadband program that we want to get sponsorship on, which was listed in that presentation slide. And then we would like to get 250 of these Khajiit hotspots up and running for families that don't qualify for that. When we use the Khajiit hotspots in the spring, we bought 6.5 terabyte of data. We ended up only using about 3 terabyte of data. And because of our relationship with Khajiit and knowing that we would be continuing on, they let us roll over 3.5 terabyte of data for the fall, which is really exciting because in the spring, we didn't do that robust, truly always on learning. And so what's before you tonight is the purchase of 4 additional terabyte so that we can get to what we think is 7.5 terabyte of data to be used for our families that will be using these hotspots for learning. So we, again, are thrilled having this device option available for hotspots because they are filtered and they also are SIPA compliant, which we always work to, adhere to the federal laws related to that.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr.
I'm
Swift.
sorry, perhaps Dr. Kellstrom, you could touch on the trustee's question from last week. And sure. Last week I did share the Comcast approach, which we're very excited about, the Khajiit approach, which is awesome, and then also the school bus. And that we're trying one, but we're excited to try more. What should families expect, though, if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 children on? What should we expect?
So we have done some testing, both with our hotspots and then on our personal Comcast. Comcast seems to be the main provider in the Ann Arbor and greater area. When we did our test, we used its their upload and download speeds. So we used the broadband portion of it. And at a 20 meg download speed, we could get 4 Zooms, which would, be inclusive of 3 students and a parent, or 2 students and 2 parents that would be on Zooms at one time. And the connectivity seemed to hold well. What we're finding out is it's more about updating existing equipment in homes. And so we've had to add this question on to our staff as we service them to get ready for the fall. So one of our first questions now when staff call and say, I'm having a horrible connection, the first thing we do is well, where are you holding your meeting from? If you're outside, you are X number of feet away from the place where your business works, where your modem or your router or combination of the two are. And so, we try to tell them, if you're going to be wirelessly connected to your system at home, that, you really don't want to be more than 20, 30 feet away. You want to make good choices about where you are within. And so that's the first thing as we talk about distance. The second thing we ask them is, when was the last time that you updated your modem/router through your provider? And surprisingly, that has been a big deal. So we'll get like 5, 6, 7 years, and we're okay, these modems get improved and updated every couple of years by the providers. And so we've been encouraging people, make contact, get that box sent to you, and then change it out. And it's really a quite simple process. And it takes, but minutes what you get it. And that will improve your rates of speed, your connectivity, your efficiency, because new products always operate better. So there's some general housekeeping that we've been doing with people that we're noticing great results in, and we will do that with all of our families too. We will help guide them as we get questions in. But so we're at this point, we haven't been as concerned with some of our tests, but we will watch it carefully. And with these Khajiit hotspots, what's nice is we can up we can't up the speed, but we could give multiple products, get as many people signed up for Comcast Essentials. That's like our plan tomorrow. If everything goes well tonight, tomorrow morning, we want to start getting on the phone, making the calls and getting people set up, because we have a list of individuals that we already want to work carefully with. So we will find the right connectivity that each family needs in order to participate. And we've been training our tech team all week. We have scripts that we make and call, and we have follow-up practices. And we're really excited. We love challenges. So we're really excited. We just need the tools, options, and then we will go ahead and work carefully with everybody to service.
Great. Thank you very much.
President Johnson, because parents might be watching, Dr. Kellstrom, would they get the hotspot when they get their laptop, or is that with their device, or is that a separate function?
So we're probably going to do a combination of two. We really enjoy talking with families on the one-to-one form that they'll fill out for their contract for the year. It'll say, please call the 734-997-1222 to talk to a tech individual. And so we usually like to walk through, where do you live? A few things depend on appropriate. So we will have hotspots at the sites available, if they're needed right on the site. Usually we like to talk to them. We have lockers and places to make connections to get them. We're hoping to, get bunches signed up tomorrow through Comcast.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right. Trustee questions. I saw Trustee Kelly.
Yeah, thank you. I can't believe we used that little data in the spring. That's you never hear you come in under budget. That's amazing. You came in under budget. I also heard you say that spring learning was very different than the way fall learning is going to be. I think we're all anticipating that. Do we have a sense of what our published schedule in terms of the synchronous blocks, for the 4 days a week, the amount of data that folks should plan for one child's worth to need? And I'm thinking not necessarily for people who are using district technology, but for people who are assessing their privately acquired data programs. Sometimes you can choose how much data you get in a month. And I'm wondering if we have a way to estimate like a per child budget for that.
So we looked at, in that one between, like, let's say, half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour, 20 minutes to 45 or close to an hour, it's about 1.2 megabits of data per second is our estimate. And so we kind of looked at 4 of the megabytes of data per second per child, 4 to 5 per day was our estimate. And that's just to be high. We're trying to match what we see on the schedule. We also know that, when they're in live class, that class might not be for the whole hour. That class might be for a connection for, 20 minutes, do a little work, check in or back, so it's going to vary, but probably if you set it up right around 4 to 5 is probably a good number. And so that's how we did, when we did our test, it was 20 megabits per second of 20 meg of data. And we split it out between four family members for that day. So we will be able to gather that data once we get those Khajiit hotspots up, and then we will track not the users, but we will take the data pieces and kind of match up minutes and see what we can determine, because we do use data to inform a lot of our practice.
Right. I'm glad that we're going to be able to do that right away, because I'm envisioning this moment where everyone gets, within a week of their billing cycle and hits their data limit, and all of a sudden, we have a snow day, if you will, because nobody can log on. So I think the better we can stay out front on that, the better chance of, having tech snow days, of eliminating them. I also heard you talk about, when we're talking 4 devices at once, you talked about this combination of parents and kids and doing Zooms for work and school. But I don't want to give anybody false expectations. The district devices are going to be limited to school use. This isn't for work from home. This isn't for
Correct.
Netflix. This isn't for the parents' needs. They got to talk to their employer. This is for the students' learning needs.
And it definitely is. And the Comcast Essentials program is a great example. It's just for internet. It's not for cable. It's not for anything else that you would get. All of the devices and the connectivity is truly for student learning. And we're hoping our families will follow, that practice, and then set aside those devices and turn off services or whatever when they're not using them.
Great. And I know you're labeling devices and cases and everything. I've seen the label on district devices before. I know it's sort of an internal, warehousing, what device is this kind of measure. Will the stickers and labeling have any information for the parents, like say maybe the tech helpline number right on it, or is it still going to be just an internal information sticker?
It won't have the help number on it. They are some stickers that you really can't pull off. They get pre-printed, and so they are printed in lots. And so the tech number, we have kept the help desk tech number the same for the families. And, we're about 16,000 calls in. So we're feeling pretty good, like we're imprinted in the majority of people's minds, but we will continue to post it. It gets posted almost on every district communication that ever comes out.
That's really great. I just thank you so much for this extraordinary work. I mean, it's really just been this partnership of the voters prioritizing the kind of funding that this requires, and your tech team just doing extraordinary work to make this happen, because we know there's lots of things that impact a student's ability to access education, but I'm just really proud that technology is not going to be one of those barriers. So thanks to you and your team for all this incredible work.
Yep, it's really a team effort with everybody, teachers to learn the system, the voters. I mean, that was a key thing. I look at, just as an aside, in the United States, there's a shortage of devices, and especially Chromebooks around. And, we're very fortunate that we were able to get an order in, find a vendor to secure it, and have the resources available to get out to our families so we can look at, rigorous learning, which is what we've always been about. We want our children to succeed. So team effort from everybody.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Basquette.
Thank you so much. Really excited to hear of these purchases. And again, another way where we are demonstrating equity and inclusion. Ms. Kellstrom or Dr. Kellstrom, please let me understand the $26,000 fee. This is for service versus the actual gizmos. That's how I read it.
Correct. So we own the gizmos, and now we just are funding them, seeding minutes into them. So we took the data plan, we took an estimate of what we saw, what we expect for device usage of 250 devices. And so we're buying a data plan minutes to support existing devices. That's why the price is so much lower than the spring. So those devices will last a good 2 or plus years. And we'll just continue to front load data plan minutes on as needed.
And this data plan for 26,000, how long is this supposed to last? A semester, a school year, a month?
It's 6 months. So we always, let me make sure we always work in 4 or 6 month 4 or 6 month increments with the vendor. And then we have figured out a way to roll over unused minutes, which we will continue to press our vendors for, because that is critical to keep funding each extra cycle.
Very smart. And are we sure 250 is enough?
Well, we're ready to go with the next PO when we hit that moment. These are turn on moments. When you have the devices, they're all ready to go. So if we find ourselves, we're looking to bring in Comcast. So tomorrow we want to start making our phone calls to, we've got about 120 families that we want to reach out to automatically. Okay. And if we find ourselves short, we will come back. I asked the same thing from our mobile device manager. They take, but a couple of days to get up, and we already own the devices. So if we come back to you, then, we're trying to be fiscally responsible. Just know when we come back, then we really need them and we're ready for the next batch.
I appreciate that because, we do have to worry about lag time and things like that. But so I'm glad you're proactively thinking and also being sensitive to our fiscal responsibilities as trustees. Thank you so much. I look forward to approving this.
Thank you, Trustee Basquette. Trustees, any other questions? And I don't see any hands. I actually have a couple questions too, and I'm very excited about this as well. I mean, we talked last week about the digital divide and how we are really effectively eliminating that in Ann Arbor Public Schools, and super excited about that, to be able to say that and to do that. My question, I do believe in last week's memos, we had some reference to CARES Act money, and this is coming out of the general fund, if I read this correctly. And my question, especially in light of Trustee Basquette's question about, is this enough and how long will this last us? Is there a reason that this would continue to have to come out of the general fund? Was there something specific about it that wasn't able to be covered in bond funding and or CARES Act money? Just to enlighten me and the public on that piece.
I'll clarify first. This particular component cannot come out of the technology bond, and we are so grateful for that bond. Our memo should say general fund, CARES, or general fund. And if it does not say that, then my apologies, because in our way of thinking, and Ms. Minnick does not have all of the specific directions yet, but in our way of thinking, this would definitely be appropriate to CARES funding. Would you agree, Dr. Kellstrom?
I would agree. And just for a tech bond, it has to be equipment. So these are services, and that's why we only came with 250. We didn't want to buy extra services if we weren't going to need them. And so, we would look for CARES funding first. And here's Mrs. Minnick too to talk about it.
She's go ahead, Ms. Minnick.
Dr. Kellstrom is correct. The hardware itself would come out of the bond fund, but this data plan must come out of the general fund, and we will be accounting for the CARES Act grant monies in the general fund. but it absolutely can qualify for CARES money as we know it. Dr. Swift is correct as well as saying that we don't have those details yet on exactly the expenditures that will be allowable, but an expenditure like this typically would be allowable as it would have been allowed in the previous CARES grant that we have accepted. So
Perfect. Thank you. No, that answers the question. I think for the public's information, they hear us talk about a lot of these buckets, and I didn't see CARES in the memo, but it's absolutely appropriate given that we don't know exactly what will be covered in the CARES Act. However, this is something that's very important, and the general fund is there to handle expenditures that we think are very important as well. And so to make sure that we get it done on time, getting it paid out of the general fund is really important at this moment. So but hopefully we get that reimbursement and everything works out there. But I did want to make sure to ask that question.